All right, let's get live here. I'm gonna go ahead and get started in a second. I know some guys are just still jumping in. We're gonna be talking about probably one of the hardest subjects men don't want to talk about, and that is victim energy. First time I heard this, I was like, "What is victim energy?" It's probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and one of my good friends, coach, mentor, we were talking about clients, and he was talking about the idea of how when you have somebody that's wanting to work on themselves, they can either come with a lot of sort of internal locus of control, which is where they're able to take ownership over the things that are happening as best they can within the parameters or the control that they have. And so it's a psychological term called internal locus of control. The other side is what's called external locus of control. And an external locus of control view or perspective is one where you're looking at the outside world and you're saying that I don't really have control. It's the outside world that has all the control. That I am just a sort of victim of my circumstances. That I'm sort of a victim of all the things that are happening to me. And as I've been doing this work, and I've worked with literally thousands of men. This is not a joke. This is not like a thing. I probably talk to over 1,000 men a year, and I've been doing this for almost 5 years. So I probably talked to 4 or 5 thousand guys, either over the phone, in coaching, as clients, etc. We've literally had 3,000+ paying clients. So I'm saying that to preface, I'm not full of shit. That this is like not just some theory I came up with. This is real world practical wisdom and advice that I've seen. And what I've seen is two types of guys. I've seen guys who come in and go, I want to fix my marriage, I want to save my marriage, or I want to do whatever, right? They have some goal that they're working towards. And both of those guys come in with the same type of energy. But there's responses to the things that happen to them. The first response is when things start to go bad, they continue to look at themselves and go, how can I show up better? What can I own out of the things that I don't control, that if I don't control this, I can't own that, but what can I control? What are my controllables? So control the controllables. And then there's the other type of guy that says, well, she says she's done. She says this, she says that, she's kicked me out. She, hitting what I call the she button instead of hitting what I call the me button. And in doing so, you create this massive amount of victim energy. And the victim energy is basically a waste of energy, right? We all have a certain level of energy in our day. You get up at 6 a.m. and you go to bed at 10 p.m., whatever it is, and you only have so much energy. You get energy from calories, from caloric intake in your internal body. You have energy in your brain, right? Like all of this is energy. And what we don't do is we're not aware of those things. And so we don't manage the energy. I mean, like how much time do you spend wasting your energy on stupid shit? Like watching, sports or whatever. And I don't have a problem with it. Obviously, I'm a fucking Wrexham fan, right? Like I love watching sports. I love doing those things. I love scrolling on the internet and TikTok and whatever. But what happens is we spend so much time doing those things that it becomes a waste of energy. So that's one aspect from a production standpoint. But if you look at it from a victim standpoint in your marriage, and you look at the fact that when your wife is checking out, when she is leaning out, we have one or two responses that we can have. We can have a victim response, or we can have a victor response. A victim response basically says, well, I can't control her, so I'm just going to give up. Or I can't control her, but I'm going to do everything I can to manipulate her. And if I don't get my way, then I'll throw my hands up and I'll cry and I'll blame her and I'll blame the world. I'll blame the president. I'll blame everything else. And I wrote this post to my guys in my private client group the other day, and I was saying, look, like this type of energy is as old as Adam and Eve. Whether you believe in the biblical story or not, even if we just looked at it from a story, it's kind of fascinating where Adam and Eve were together in the garden. And this is, again, this is not to get religious, but just as a story, right? Adam and Eve in the garden, and Eve goes and gets this apple that God says don't eat. And she gives it to the man, and the man says, okay, I'll eat it, stupid. He eats the apple. And then what happens? God says, where are you? He's like, I'm hiding. Why does he hide? Why do men hide? Because they feel ashamed. They feel ashamed when they've done dumb shit. And so instead of like being transparent, instead of being vulnerable, instead of coming to the table, what happens? He hides. And in his hiding, he's not able to deal with anything. So this man, the first man, Adam, ever, actually hides and lives in his shame. And as soon as God says, well, who told you were naked? And like, why did you do this? And what does he do? He hits the she button. The first man ever to hit the she button, blames it on Eve, says it's Eve's fault. You gave her to me, and this is what happened, God. And he blamed his wife. We've been doing it since the dawn of time. And that got that man nowhere, literally got him nowhere with God. Now, again, fast forward to where we are today, and we still have men that do this. And all of us have done it. I have done it. I know I have done it. And it took me waking up to this realization that if I want things to change in my marriage, if I want things to change in my life, I cannot be a victim of circumstances. Now, let me separate this. There's a difference between being victimized and being a victim. Being victimized is like, let's say something traumatic happens against you. Let's say your wife does cheat on you. Let's say that you are abused somehow. Let's say that you were beat up, right? Let's say you were robbed. You were victimized. And that is a valid thing, right? So what you're experiencing is not invalid, right? The experience of betrayal is very valid. I was cheated on multiple times. Okay. I understand the energy that takes, the betrayal and how it hits you and where it hits you, and you feel like dying and you don't want to wake up some days, and you just become a fucking zombie. Like, I understand that, where you cry for days on end because you feel like you're dying and death is happening and you wouldn't wish this on the worst enemy in your life. I get that. There's a difference between those who end up using that for power and using that to gain their power, and those who just continue to allow the victim energy to become their idol, to become their identity, and to be one of those who just blames the world for all of their fucking problems. Let me tell you something. If you want to be successful in life, this is just basic success, whether it's in business, in relationships with your kids, etc., you cannot be a victim. Again, nothing wrong with being victimized, right? If you've been victimized, I totally get that. It's valid to feel what you feel, but it's what you do with the feeling that makes you a man or makes you a little bitch. Let's just be honest. Because when you feel those things, you have a choice of what to do with those things. No one is telling you you have to feel this way. No one is telling you that you have to sit in your shit. It's your choice. It's always your choice. There's a term that psychologists have called psychological flexibility. I love this term because psychologists are starting to see through studies and research that actually the human brain is way more malleable than we realize. And that because it's more malleable, that we don't have to hold on to the old things that have kept us down. And for those of my biblical people, you would know what I'm talking about. You can literally let go of the past and take hold of what is new. And so many of us want to hold on to the old thing. We want to hold on to the old relationship that's fucking dead. We want to hold on to the hurt that she did to us. We don't want to let it go because it's our pride and our ego. It becomes this whole identity. I've been abused. I've been abandoned. I've been rejected. And people hear this from you and they're like, well, you've probably not had a hard life. Bro, you have no idea what I've been through. I've been through some of the hardest shit ever. But I turn it into my fucking power. And so you get a choice. You get a choice. You can come to this place and you can come to this table and you can scoff at it and go, oh, look at these breadcrumbs. Oh, this is nothing here. There's nothing good here. Or you can turn that shit into fucking gold. You can literally turn it into gold. I have turned all of my pain into power. I now help people go through, navigate, experience what I experienced, but from a high level, from a perspective that they didn't see before. I went before you. I experienced all this so that I could go back and say, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to fall apart. You don't have to fall into the bottle. You don't just have to give yourself over to every $2 hooker. Like, you can have the fucking life that you want to have. All of this comes from victim energy. All of this comes from a place of deciding and choosing, do I want to be a victim or do I want to be a victor? Guys, this thing is so pervasive. I guarantee some of you conceptually are like, oh yeah, I get it. I get what he's saying. Like, don't feel sorry for yourself and all that. Yeah, exactly. Because no one's coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. Again, even if you believe in faith, there's some aspect of faith where you have to believe in the higher power, in Jesus or whatever, and say, please save me, right? He's not coming to do it. You have to go to him and say, please, I need this. It's the same thing with your transformation, with your self-growth. You have to come to the table and say, enough is enough. I don't want to live this way anymore. I am tired of being a victim. I'm tired of feeling this way. What can I do? I don't want to be disempowered anymore. And that's where men make the change. That's where men make the change. But here's the thing is in that process, you're going to be tempted to constantly go back to it. You're going to be constantly, I've worked with so many clients where they'll have massive breakthroughs and great things will be happening. And all of a sudden, it's like they're excited, and then they run out of energy. And suddenly they're going backwards. And it's like, dude, what happened? They stopped being victors and they started being victims again. And in their victimhood, they weren't victimized, but they chose to believe this narrative that the world is out to get them, that nobody loves them, that nobody wants them, because that's the easy fucking thing to do. Let's just be honest, right? It's easier to believe that the government is out to get you, that the IRS hates you, that your mom doesn't love you, that your dad abuses. It's so much easier to believe that than to believe the truth that I am responsible. That I am responsible for my wins and my losses. I am responsible for the good things and the bad things. That I am responsible. And by taking responsibility as a man, we get freedom. I talk to so many guys who are like, man, I have no confidence. I have no value. And it's like, bro, because you're a fucking victim. There's no way in hell that you can have your confidence. There's no way in hell that you can have all those things without taking action. I have felt like a victim in so many areas. Weight, being physically unfit was one of those areas where I had to take back control again because I felt helpless. I'd lost weight, I'd gained weight. I'd lost weight, I'd gained weight. I'd lost weight, I'd gained weight. And it's like, I just felt fucking helpless. And so you just give up. You go, well, why even try? Why even try? There's no point even trying. I'm just going to be fat. This is the way my life is going to be. And that is all there is to it. I chose a different path. And I'm like, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to fucking find a way because I need to overcome this shit, not only for myself, but for my children. They need to see an empowered man, not just emotionally and like this, but they need to see a physical man who's also empowered, who's also owning his shit in every fucking dimension of his life. Because I want my kids to have that legacy. Like think about the crap in our world. Think about the man, think about the bad shit that's out there. What's the number one thing that it comes back to? Fatherlessness. Fatherlessness. When we have a culture of children who don't have strong fathers, what do we have? We have teenage girls getting pregnant. We have young boys getting on drugs and selling drugs. We have all this shit as the biggest pandemic in the world. Fuck COVID. This thing is even bigger. Fatherlessness is the number one issue, in my opinion. And fatherlessness comes from a place of men who've never been fathered, now trying to be fathers, right? And all of you that are here, you're probably actually good dudes. Like you want to change. You want to be a good father. That's why you reached out for help. That's why you got in the Facebook group. That's why you listen to my rantings and you're like, yes, I understand. I agree with what he's saying. And so you're here and you're like, oh, I want to be better, but you don't know fucking how to do it. You were never fathered. And so it's like, how is a man supposed to be truly fathered? Now, maybe you had a good dad who took you to church and took you hunting and all those things, but he didn't emotionally connect with you. And because he didn't emotionally connect with you, you don't know what you have. You don't know you have what it takes to be a fucking man. You were never fully initiated. You might have been initiated into working out in the gym. Maybe you were initiated into getting girls and getting pussy. Maybe you were initiated into being a mechanic or whatever. And those are great things, but you weren't initiated into being a real fucking man. Because that is the outward view of a man, right? The Clint Eastwood, the Lone Ranger, right? The Braveheart, right? But a true man has so much more emotionally and internally than he does externally. And the external is great. And I'm a big proponent of working on the external things. That's why I'm doing that myself personally. But it all comes back to the emotional world. It all comes back to, am I going to look at my circumstances as a victim or as a victor? And I get to choose that. So I want to give you a couple questions to really think about. Here's the thing is I am always looking at where am I feeling disrespected? Where am I feeling helpless? And where am I feeling betrayed? These are some of the key areas, if you will, where you can really point out in your life those victim energies. Where am I feeling disrespected? Where am I feeling betrayed? Where am I feeling helpless? Like the areas where you feel helpless are generally the biggest areas of concern. And a lot of times we just ignore them over time, right? Like it'll come to the surface and then we go, nah, never mind. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to think about it. And so we just bury it. We bury it through all kinds of shit. Work, drugs, alcohol, sex, porn, whatever the fuck we do. We bury it because it's so much easier to escape our pain than to lean into the pain. Leaning into the pain is literally this. You feel the pain, you know it's here. Instead of you trying to do something crazy like ignore it, you accept it for what it is. You process it. You learn to put a grid on. So you go, okay, this is what I'm feeling in my body right now. And I need to address it. If I'm feeling agitated, if I'm feeling aggressive, if I'm feeling anxiety, all those things, I get to choose what I do with it. So the premise of this conversation was victim energy destroying your marriage. This is how victim energy destroys your marriage. Your wife comes home from a hard day at work. You had a hard day at work. She comes in and she's like, "Oh, you forgot to take out the garbage last night." Well, I fell asleep and then this happened. Yeah, but you didn't take out the garbage, and I asked you to take out the garbage. This is like the 13th time, Tom, that I asked you to take out the garbage, and you didn't fucking take out the garbage. What do you immediately feel? Victim. You feel attacked, right? And that attack, oh my God, it just does something in us because it questions our manhood, right? It feels so disrespectful. But on the flip of it, she's feeling like you don't love her. She's feeling like she's told you time and time and time again, and you didn't do the thing. This happens to me. This still happens to me in my current marriage. I have a great marriage, but there are things that my wife tells me to do that I sometimes don't do. And in doing so, I have to address it and go, holy shit, I need to own this. You asked me to do something, I didn't do it. And that probably made you feel unloved, unappreciated. And she's like, yeah, it does. Guys, choosing not to be a victim is how you become empowered. In those moments, it's those little moments. Again, there's a proverb that says the little foxes that spoil the vine. It's the little foxes that spoil the vine. It's never the big thing. You know, your wife having an affair is not the reason your marriage is over. Your wife having a new job, your wife losing 100 pounds is not the reason your marriage is over. No, what happens is over time, little foxes have been spoiling the vine the whole time. The disrespect on both sides, right? And again, I'm not saying your wife doesn't play a part in this at all. Your wife does play a part in this, but we can't control what she's doing. We can't control where she's at. All we can do is teach her how to communicate with us. There's this saying this leadership coach taught me one time, and I thought it was brilliant. He said, you promote what you tolerate from people. What you tolerate is what you promote to them. You promote what you tolerate from people. What you tolerate is what you promote to them. So if I allow somebody to constantly disrespect me, to abuse me emotionally, to emotionally bait me, and I fall into their emotional baiting, I'm teaching them it's okay to be this way with me. I'm teaching them it's okay to be toxic, and I'm going to put up with it. I'm okay with this behavior. And then what happens is we feel sorry for ourselves. Why is she so mean to me? Why does she talk to me this way? I don't understand it. And it's like, bro, you've been teaching her for 15 years how to communicate with you. And you do the same to her. You do it out of spite because you feel disrespected. And so to gain your power back, you become sarcastic and you make little jabs. And all those things lead to the four horsemen of God, the Gottmans talk about, where you have contempt and you have criticism or criticalness, and you have gaslighting and stonewalling, right? Whatever the actual four names are for all of that, where people shut down, people lie, all the shit that happens in a marriage. But it starts with the man, stop being a victim. If you can today make not a proclamation, right? I'm not looking for like, oh, I'm going to just not be a victim anymore. But to begin to make and create a new identity and a new belief system that, hey, I'm going to try this on for a minute and make a decision to no longer be a victim and to go, what if I just start taking responsibility? What if I choose to not just blame the president? A perfect example. I mean, look at all the shit that's happened since President Trump was almost assassinated. Like, my God, everyone is trying to blame this director, this FBI, this CIA. It's President Trump's fault. It's the kid's fault. It's the kid's parents' fault, right? Like, what do? We are looking for places to blame because we don't know how to take accountability. No one in that situation has taken any ounce of fucking accountability whatsoever. Why? What do? We pass the buck. We pass the buck. We pass the buck because we lack fucking leadership. This world is waiting for men to wake the fuck up and become leaders. That's why I do what I do, guys. I do this because I want to see a generation of men who weren't fathered become fathered so they can be fathers. A generation of men who've been isolated to become connected so that they can connect others. Because what happens when our world is full of connected men? The fatherlessness goes down tremendously. We reach out to other brothers. Suicide is one of the biggest things ailing men right now. We deal with guys all the time that commit suicide, all the time. Happens every year, several. We've had former clients do it. We've had guys that were in the process of becoming a client do it because men they just cash in, taking my chips, I'm out. And they got nothing left. It fucking breaks my heart. Thank God most of you are not in that place. 95, 99% of you. Maybe you thought about it, but you're not in that place. We had a guy just join our Thrive program the other day who had been considering it. But he's like, dude, I want a better way. I can't do that to my kids because he understands it's one of the most selfish things you can fucking do. At the end of the day, we can choose to be victims or we can choose to be victors. We can choose to fucking go out and take this world. I hate to say it, but the euphemism, take the world by the horns. Carpe diem. It sounds so cliche at this point, but there's a truth to it. There is an absolute truth to it. We get to choose who we want to be. I want you to ask yourself some of these questions. So when you're feeling that victim, here's one of the questions you can ask yourself. What are the feelings that are underneath my emotions? There's this thing called an emotion wheel or feelings wheel. I think if you just Google it, emotion wheel or feelingswheel.com, I think it is, and you'll see this wheel of emotions. And the emotion is the first thing that you're feeling, right? It's the anger, it's the sadness, it's the whatever. We have to separate our emotions from our actual feelings. Man, it's easy to think for men to say, I'm angry, I'm mad, right? That's like a fucking easy thing for us to say. What's not easy for us to say is, I feel disrespected. I feel discouraged by the way you're communicating with me right now. I feel very rejected. It's hard for us to admit those things because of our pride, because of our ego. I'm telling you right now, if you can put your ego down, because the ego is tied to your victim. The ego and your victim are like best friends. And you can put your ego down. I've got plenty of trainings on that. If you go back to 2022, 2023, I think in my podcast, your ego is not your friend. Your ego is the enemy. And you realize if I put down my ego and I go to whether my wife, my kids, my job, whatever it is, and I learn to have solid communication that comes from an emotionally vulnerable place, I will be much stronger and I'll have way more power. I'm able to yield so much more power in my vulnerability than in my anger. Like I can be angry with my kids. What are you doing? Why did you do this? What the? Versus saying, hey, when you do that to dad, it makes me feel very disrespected. And that's not okay. It hurts my feelings when you do that. We've been taught for some reason that that's like not masculine. That's such bullshit. That's such bullshit. Because our kids who still have those emotions, our little boys, our little girls who still have those emotions are like, whoa, I heard dad's feelings. Because they know what it's like to have their feelings hurt. They don't want to hurt your feelings. They want to listen to you. They want to respect you. Sometimes they don't realize what they're doing. I got 7 kids. One of them's 16. He's like the coolest kid most of the time. There's sometimes he's an asshole and he knows it. And it's like, bro, you're being a disrespectful little punk right now. What the fuck? He's like, yeah, you're right. And it's like, when you're doing that, it makes me feel like you don't give a fuck about me. I don't say fuck, but it makes me feel like you don't care about me and what I have to tell you. He's like, yeah, you're right. That's not cool. So that honest vulnerability, guys, will change the game. All right, here's another question. What is the truth about what I am feeling? What is the truth about what I am feeling? This is a big one. This is a really, really big one. Because again, when we can get to the actual feeling, I feel disrespected. That's an easy one because most of us feel disrespected most of the time. I feel discouraged. I feel abandoned, right? We get to those actual feelings and go, well, am I being disrespected? Am I really being abandoned? Or is that just my feeling? And if I can bring some truth there and go, this person is doing a thing that is making me or causing me to feel abandoned, but maybe that's not their truth. Maybe that's not their intention. And maybe I can look at things from their perspective, not to dismiss it at all, right? If you've been wronged, you've been wronged. This goes to the whole cheating thing, right? I will never, ever not say that your wife is in the wrong for cheating on you. I don't care how horrible of a husband you are. She's fucking wrong if she's cheating on you. Okay. Let's get that out of the way. But at the end of the day, sometimes an understanding can help bridge the gap towards reconciliation. For those of you who have been cheated on, for those of you who've been wronged, who've been victimized in your marriage, if you want reconciliation, it's going to start with you being honest about your feelings. It's going to start with you being honest about what you feel with yourself, not with her, with you. Being honest about what I feel so that I'm clear about it. And once I'm clear about it, then I can start to process and look at her perspective. How is the world occurring to her? Again, this is not to dismiss the tragedy. This is not to dismiss her wrong. It's simply to understand where she is coming from. Empathy doesn't mean we don't hold the other person accountable. Empathy just leads to understanding. And when you can have two people who have understanding, you have a bridge for reconciliation. It's the only way. That's the only way. The other way won't work. The other way is this: sweep it under the rug. Sweep it under the rug. Act as if nothing happened. That doesn't last. Trust me. I tried it. Doesn't last at all. There has to be vulnerability. There has to be honesty. But you can't expect your wife to be vulnerable and honest with you if you first are not vulnerable and honest with yourself. That means this, guys. You've got to stop lying to yourself. Every day we wake up, we are fucking lying to ourselves. We're lying about how we feel about shit. We're lying about how we're really doing. I mean, you see somebody that you haven't seen. Hey man, what's up? Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. You have no idea. Like the dude just lost his job. Shit's on fire. Like everything in the world is falling apart. Especially you go to church. My God, everybody's amazing. Everybody's great. Everybody's blessed. But in reality, everybody's a shit show. Fucking people are cheating on people. All kinds of crap is happening. But yeah, I'm highly blessed and favored. It's like, dude, just be real for a second. How are you really doing? Guys, that's why I create Empowered Man, for authentic communication, for men to not feel isolated anymore, to come to the table and go, dude, things aren't good. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. And that's okay. It's okay that you're scared. That doesn't make you any less of a man. To be scared and to admit it, I think it makes you more of a man. I have way more respect for a man who can come to me and say, man, I'm scared. I don't fucking know what to do. Because guys, I get scared all the time. Weird. Big bad me. I get scared all the time. I get scared all the time. Shit that's happening. My kids, my life, the business, all my house, whatever. Shit gets scary. Life is scary. But if I can't admit that, and if I can't be a fucking man about it, what kind of connection will I have with myself? And if I can't have a good connection with myself, how the fuck can I have a good connection with my wife? How can I be deeply connected with my children? I can't. It all comes back to that emotional vulnerability and emotional connection. When we stop being victims, we become victors. We become victors by being emotionally connected to ourselves so that we can be empowered and thrive in every dimension of life. I always like to make an invitation. If you want to talk with me more, if you want to reach out, have a conversation about what's going on, to see if I can help you, to see if my team can help you, I want to make that uh, ability to you. I want to give you that opportunity. So I'm gonna post my my personal Facebook Messenger link here in the chat. Where's that? Chat. Oh, there we go. My support guy did it. Click that link and reach out to me. I don't know if I can help you. I can't help every guy. I'll tell you that, be honest. I'm probably only fit for a small percentage. And that's because the work we do is hard and not everybody wants to fucking work. Most guys would rather be lazy and they'd rather not try. And that's okay. It's just not for us. And unfortunately, I wish every guy would. I wish every guy would give themselves a shot and give themselves this opportunity to save their marriage, to save themselves, to have a fucking empowered life. But unfortunately, not everyone's there. So click that link. I've got a couple of different things right now. If you are in the place of wanting to save your marriage, I'll tell you about our marriage boot camp. If you are like, dude, I'm kind of ready to move on, then our Thrive Brotherhood might be the place for you. And so we have kind of both those pathways depending upon the guy and the situation. If it's a financial issue, we got all kinds of funding options to make things work for you. I will always bend over backwards for guys that are willing to go to the table and do hard shit. I know some guys fucking do like Grubhub and whatever just to make payments, just to like make shit work because they so desperately want the help that we can offer them. And I'll always go to bat for guys like that. Mad respect for that. That's all I got today, guys. I hope this was good for you. I hope it was impactful for you. Go back and listen. We'll send the replay out, I think tomorrow. So look out for that in your thing. If you want to do an application for Thrive, it's linked there. If you want to talk to me more, and we'll just get on a call, 15-minute, 30-minute call, figure out what's best for you and what you really need right now. Have a good one, guys. See ya.